NFL draft nerds, welcome in. Philadelphia Eagles fans, congratulations. How about that game on Sunday? An organization that made all the right moves during the 2024 offseason. Hit on just about everything they tried. Bryce Huff's situation didn't quite work out as expected, but everywhere else you look, throughout the roster, throughout the coaching staff, everything they did worked. It was absolutely incredible. They took advantage of divisional opponents making not great decisions, right? Saquon Barkley, Jahan Dotson helping out with that Super Bowl victory. Zach Bond coming over from the Saints and looking like one of the best linebackers in football, bar none, whether it's defending the run, whether it's making plays in pass coverage. Zach Bond was incredible for them. So the goal now, after winning the Super Bowl for the first time with Nick Sirianni and your second appearance under Nick Sirianni as head coach, you got to replace your offensive coordinator. Kellen Moore's going over to coach the New Orleans Saints. So how do you do that? It looked like, passing game coordinator was probably the one that could be the internal candidate. He's now also getting interest from Kellen Moore and the Saints, it looks like. I would think you would rather stay in Philly and coach up that group than go down to New Orleans with what's going on, just from a talent and direction standpoint with these two franchises. I would think you would want to stay in Philly. We will see how that plays out. They've obviously got to get someone who is competent and can focus on getting the best players the ball in critical situations and highlighting the things that those guys do well. It shouldn't be too difficult, quite frankly, with what Philly has on the offensive side of the ball, talent-wise. Talent everywhere on offense, absolutely everywhere. Now, the top priority, I think, needs to be re-signing Zach Bond. After you worry about your offensive coordinator, obviously, you got to re-sign Zach Bond. He was amongst the leaders of this football team, and obviously it would have been nice in hindsight if you signed him to a multi-year deal, but they didn't do that, and they need Zach Bond around, in my opinion. They absolutely do. Nakobe Dean can help out, but I think you lose Zach Bond and you're losing a big piece to what made this thing tick in 2024. So re-sign Zach Bond. Again, I wouldn't let that guy leave the building. Now, can you do that and retain Milton Williams, Josh Sweat? I'm not so sure. It'll be interesting to see how the Eagles try to kind of hold on to some of these pieces. Mekhi Becton as well on the offensive side of the ball. I do think this is a good draft for the Eagles potentially, though, to be able to address edge, interior defensive line depth, guard as well. If Mekhi Becton leaves, if Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, etc. And I think that those will be needs to address the depth there, but you do have a Mora Ojomo and a Jalix Hunt, guys that could step up in place of some of the potential departures on the defensive line. Still, though, I think you're going to be looking at that. I think you're going to be looking for a third receiver, right guard if Mekhi Becton leaves. I think long-term you could be looking for tackle. And we have to keep in mind, getting inside the mind of Howie Roseman and the way this football team operates, they're going to be trying to capitalize on market inefficiencies, take advantage of opportunities that present themselves. So I think if a tremendous value falls their way at 32, they're not going to just say, we got to go get our need. I think they're going to take the best value available. And so with all that being said, we're going to run this one over on the PFF mock draft simulator. Usually we run these on NFL mock draft database, but we're going to try to find our advantages, find where we can really kind of push this thing forward and try to get that second straight Super Bowl victory. And you look at the guys available at the top here, it's already very enticing. I have looked at some mock drafts where Nick Scorton falls to this spot. I think that would be tremendous value for them. But I love Tyleik Williams. I absolutely do. I think that he would be that perfect kind of blend of strength and explosiveness to come in and get in there with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, etc. But my goodness, Colston Loveland to me is way undervalued here. And I think about adding Colston Loveland. You have Dallas Goedert, who's had injury history and not a spring chicken anymore, right? Could Colston Loveland be the answer? This guy is an unbelievable receiving tight end, and he really is more of a receiver than anything else. but what he would bring to this offense as a receiver with his athleticism, his route running fluidity, his elusiveness with the ball in his hands, his extremely reliable hands at the catch point, both in contested catch situations and just not having any focus drops. He does not fight the ball. He naturally goes and plucks it. Great length, great catch radius. That would be something to create just how the hell do we defend this? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Colston Loveland. Yeah, I mean, that would be very enticing to me. We're going to take a look around, though, real quick. Offensive tackle. You look at this group, I don't think any of these guys really kind of stand out to where you should say, yeah, we can go get a tackle maybe that can play guard of the future, a guard currently and tackle of the future. Donovan Jackson maybe, but I certainly don't value him as highly as a Colston Loveland. Look at the interior of the offensive line. Tyler Booker's there. I'll tell you what, you could plug him in. Man, what an interior trio you would have if you plug Tyler Booker in there. And he is kind of a, if you want to compare him to Mekhi Becton, I don't think that's horrible. My one-to-one comp for him is Osiris Torrance. Get him coached up at Stoutland University. I'm going to have a hard time passing on that. So it's definitely between Tyler Booker, who does play a position of need, and Colston Loveland, who doesn't really play a position of major need, of immediate need. So I think we got to go Booker here. I have them both in the same range in this draft class, but Booker is unbelievably strong, powerful, both as a run blocker in gap and inside zone schemes and duo. I mean, just unbelievable strength and power. And he's a great pass protector as well. He's not the most nimble. He's not going to be the, guy that you're expecting to get to the third level with ease and be able to make solid contact consistently with secondary defenders down the field or pulling all the way across the line. But Tyler Booker's a stud, and I think he's a leader. I think that would be a tremendous pick for the Eagles. Just refortify that offensive line. Get a guy who can be a weapon for you in the run game at the point of attack. Yeah. Landon Dickerson, Tyler Booker, Cam Jurgens, sign me all the way up. Sign me up. All right, so we have addressed guard. Feeling good there. I think at this point in the draft, there's going to be some good values potentially in the interior of the defensive line, maybe at edge. Darius Alexander would have been tremendous there, who goes to the Buffalo Bills at 62. That's a great addition for them. Again, we're trying to find value. We are not reaching. I think Jared Ivey makes sense here potentially. And you can't forget about Jalix Hunt, no doubt. And maybe you can bring back a Josh Sweat or a Milton Williams, one of the two. I certainly don't think you're getting both back. So, interior defensive line. Yeah, we've got some names here. Deone Walker is an interesting one. Could Howie say that's a guy that really young, really physically gifted? If we can get that pad level improved a little bit, what could we have on the interior with Davis and obviously Jalen Carter, who's become one of the most dominant interior defensive linemen, and Deone Walker as well. Moro Ojomo. That could be... If you can get his pad level down, and I think he just turned 21 years old. He's a young prospect. If you can improve that pad level just a little bit more consistently, he has the potential to dominate. Now, personally, Howie Roseman usually views the board close to how I do. I think that Deone would be a little bit of a reach here. I do. And so we're going to look elsewhere. Wide receiver, is there a screaming value? Isaiah Bond could be. Absolutely could be. Didn't have the best season. I think Tez Johnson would be as well. Let's take a look back at tight end. Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor. And again, I keep coming back to tight end. I'm just thinking about where you can create the biggest mismatches. And if you have like 12 personnel out there, Elijah Arroyo, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley, I mean, that could really. I don't know how you defend all that. And Elijah Arroyo, he is a guy that just has, at his size, over 250 pounds with great length, unbelievable quickness as a route runner, fluidity, the ability to create separation, really soft hands. I would really like that for them. Yeah, I think that's the direction we got to go. I think he's the most talented guy on the board. I think he should be a early to mid second rounder at worst, and that's really only because it was only 1 year of production. Mason Taylor, you could also consider. I think Gunnar Helm, I love him, but I wouldn't consider him above Arroyo or Mason Taylor. But we'll go Elijah Arroyo here. That could be a lot of fun for that Philly offense. All right. Of course, Mason Taylor's still on the board here at 96. Deone Walker's still on the board at 96. Whew. Yeah, I think that he would take Deone at 96. I really do. Um, it would be kind of similar to the fall that we saw from Nakobe Dean, Keely Ringo, Deone Walker coming into the season. There were people that thought he could be a top 10 pick, certainly a first round pick. Didn't have the season you would expect. You see flashes at the Senior Bowl. You see flashes on tape. You got to get the pad level down. You got to try to add some more mass to the lower half of the frame. He's extremely top heavy. But I think that's a swing worth taking for a Philadelphia Eagles team that knows how to coach up the defensive front. Yeah. Absolutely. So, we could still look at receiver here. I think you could still look at potentially running back to complement. Kenneth Gainwell looks to be a free agent. Maybe you can bring him back. Um, I love Damian Martinez. I'm such a big fan of his game. So we've addressed the big needs that we were talking about coming in here outside of wide receiver, which again we addressed with Elijah Arroyo as a pass catcher. Um, Kyle Williams, I do think, presents good value here. Ricky White, potentially. I don't think you need to force it, though. Got to find the value. Oh, yep. There it is. Oluwafemi Oladejo. I've seen it. Oladejo. I've seen it. Femi Oladejo. We talked about him earlier on Dane Brugler's Top 100. This is a guy that has all the physical traits you could be asking for at edge, who converted from playing off-ball linebacker to playing edge during the season this year. Had a really impressive Senior Bowl. Let's do that and just say, man, we are rocking this draft right now, I think, for the Philadelphia Eagles. If you're an Eagles fan, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I think a candidate to kind of take on that Kenny Gainwell role if he ends up leaving could definitely be Rachel Tootin. Really speedy, quick back, good hands, all that stuff. Can hold up in pass pro. I think that there's some unheralded corners in this class. Let's see. A lot of those guys that I really like are off the board. Mac McWilliams is interesting. Jabbar Muhammad is a really talented young dude, but he's small, real small. Is there an offensive tackle we want to develop? Not particularly. Carson Vincent, actually, that would be a good one, but I think you could maybe wait a little bit on that. Emory Jones that's an interesting one too, actually. try to develop him. I mean, if there's a coach who I think could get the most out of Emory Jones, it is probably Jeff Stoutland. Big fan of Kyle Monungai's game too. He doesn't have like the long speed, but he's super quick and explosive in a short area. Very good vision and patience. Physical back. Nick Nash is an interesting one too. Unbelievably productive at San Jose State. We can go Nick Nash. I think that's the right area for him to come off the board. Kyle Monungai is still there. No problem going in that direction. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Great compliment, I think. Can have a passing game skill set for you as well. Dorian Strong, I think, is a decent candidate here to be a depth player on the back end out of Virginia Tech. Let's see here. See if we can get any steals on the defensive front. Anybody there? Jamari Caldwell. Absolutely. Sign me all the way up. And this is a guy where, if Deion Walker, if for whatever reason he's not bringing it, Jamari Caldwell is going to bring it. He is 340 pounds, but he has like definition of a dancing bear out there, right? Physical as all get out, strong as an ox, but very, very nimble at his size. Luke Lachey still on the board. That's unbelievable. Tyler Shuck still on the board. What are we doing here? PFF's got to get on this stuff. I don't think there's any way he's going to be available, either of those guys at this spot. Is Vincent still on the board? He is. Let's go for Vincent. He had a really nice week at the Senior Bowl. A small school, Alabama A&M, but he's got some size. He's got some traits I think the Eagles can work with. Tyler Shuck, let's do it. Let's do it. Bring in a really, really talented, good, young backup quarterback. We earned 2 new awards from PFF. That's great. So PFF is grading the draft, and they do not like it. And I do not care. Bottom 23rd percentile of Eagles draft. That's hilarious. So I don't know why how you could. Tyler Booker rated that low is just ridiculous in my opinion. Elijah Arroyo rated that low. So we're not going to pay attention to the grades. Bottom line is you're getting a stalwart blocker up front at 32 in Tyler Booker. You're getting a mismatch nightmare at tight end, Elijah Arroyo at 64 overall, who's going to present major, major problems for defenses when they're trying to account for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the running game with Saquon, Elijah Arroyo out there as well with Dallas Goedert, Deion Walker. This is the swing. This is the big swing. At 96, though, it's a good time to take a big swing on a really talented big man who, if you can get that pad level down, I think you could have a absolute steal if he falls to that point. And then, again, Femi Oladejo, just a looks like an all-world pass rusher, starting to show signs that he can be that. But he's got development that he needs after switching over from linebacker. Nick Nash, the ultra-productive receiver out of San Jose State. Kyle Monungai to complement Saquon, should Kenny Gainwell leave. Jamari Caldwell, too good of a football player to be available at 169 overall. Carson Vincent, a nice small school project at tackle, who I think has a lot of traits the Eagles would value. And then Tyler Shuck, of course, at the back of the draft here. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Eagles fans, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.